You can hear every little creak. There's a nice sparseness. It gets quite gnarly at the end. Hi, Hazel Mills here. This is how my track Fragile Creature was arranged in a day. TJ Allen, aka Tim, and I basically went in this with a very clear intention that we would go into the studio for a day and get the whole thing recorded and arranged. It's quite an old song of mine and I had a really rough demo. We decided not to tinker with that demo, just to leave that alone and go in and make something new within one day. And the reason that that was so significant to us was that we'd never worked like that before. We're quite guilty of tinkering for months, even years, having songs kind of go through lots of different guises and losing perspective by the end and losing some of that magic. So we wanted to keep that alive by just capturing one day, one moment, and committing to that. And it was very liberating. I would hugely recommend. Fragile creature. That sound that you hear at the start was, for some reason, I was moved to sample the sound of internet dial-up and pitch it down and use that as a sort of textural bed for the song. And that ran throughout the entire song, this kind of loop in the original demo. That was actually where we started and Tim led the way on this. So it was a combination of two sounds that we used to kind of interpret not the same sound, but the same feel that came from that texture. And I feel like the meaning of the song actually came across in that, which is the idea that the human body is very fragile and the impermanence of humanity. That kind of vulnerability I wanted to feel in some of these sonic textures. So Tim came up with this sound which he created on Absinthe. And on top of that, what we ended up doing was a lot of vocal sampling into a make noise morphogene, which was a lot of fun. Quite ghostly, and I'm really happy with the way that captured the essence of the song and replaced that original terrible modem sound. This was kind of the beginning, the starting point of arranging the song. The main instrumental element of the song was piano. We decided to go along with this idea of vulnerability to use a felted piano sound. So we used an upright that had felt beneath the hammers. With the echo, which was something that we kept from the original demo. What I really love about the piano take is that because it's felt piano, to get this kind of quite close, intimate sound, this has been really compressed. So you can hear every little creak, you can hear the creak of the piano stool, the mechanics of the piano, and you can even hear my breathing as well. And I think that really helps to connect to the character in the song quite a lot. I think the song works with just piano and vocal, but obviously we didn't want to stop there. But we had to be very careful with what we added to it, that it didn't overpower the song. And although I feel like what we did add took it to a slightly new, perhaps darker place, I do feel that it didn't overpower it. Basically, what we ended up adding was a lot of synths, as you can imagine, and Tim wrote some beats for it as well, which I think were very sympathetic to the song, but also brought it maybe into a slightly more urban, crossed with cinematic space, which I really loved. So here are some of the synths that we added. The Dave Smith Mofo. Already it's got a bit more of an edge to it just from that. And then a poly ensemble. It's got such a mournful quality, which I felt was really on point. This was something that Tim added. We also have a Korg monopoly part towards the end. Gets quite gnarly at the end. In context. Love it. We did add synth bass as well. It was very kind of sympathetic, supportive kind of role. Very subby, square wave, quite subliminal in the context. Probably wouldn't even notice it's there. And then at the end, an extra. For a bit more weight there. It says Moog, which means it was either a Sub 37 or it was during a period where we'd borrowed a mini Moog and used that, but I can't remember. So we'll leave it a mystery. So on top of the synths that we added, the only other thing that was added on a different day was that the wonderful Will Gregory was very kind enough to lend some of his magic, and he added some synths as well. Hear really faintly in the background some of the vocals from the chorus that he had processed using an H3000, I believe. And when he'd printed the synths through it as well, he got this kind of ghostly version of those vocals, which I thought was quite interesting. This was possibly the only track on the EP, at least for the whole song, that I had no hand in engineering the vocal for, which was just quite a relief actually, because, you know, as much as I like to be able to do those things, it's nice to just be the artist and get into the creative or the performance zone. And so Tim engineered the vocals for me and I was just able to get into that space. Fragile creature wants to be with red and gold. You're still young. Which one is he? Which one of him? So there was a kind of chanty, almost like this feeling of having lots of people around you that have got your back. You know, a lot of support around you. That's the feeling I wanted with these vocals, and that's what these harmonies are. Which one of him? Which one of him? Which were that for both choruses, except there was one addition to the very last time, and there was an additional which one is he? Note to make it a full chord so that you get that kind of, maybe not resolution, but an extra uplift, basically. So the final element was the beats, and I think it just all really brought it together. So hinting after the first chorus. Fragile creature. It's kind of ticking, it's that sort of ticking clock thing where this sense of kind of creeping urgency of some kind. It brought this whole other dimension, I think, to the song. To dust as your bandages unfurl. There's a nice sparseness to it where there's not a snare on every backbeat. It's really open. I think that's one of the reasons it doesn't get in the way. At a guess, because I'm going from memory, I think it's possible that Tim used Machina for the drums. Maybe he can correct me after this if I'm wrong. I don't know if he remembers, but it doesn't really matter what he used because it works, and that's the main thing. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode of Track Origins, and I'll see you next time.